Item 8.1, the High Prairie Native Friendship Center request. Can I get a motion? Councillor Rose.
The council approved Mayor Panasic or delegate to attend the High Prairie Native Friendship Center's 40th anniversary celebrations on March 22nd, 2019.
Okay, any, Councillor Gilroy?
I was reading the letter and it says, looks like it's from noon to 2. Is the mayor able to attend that?
I am.
I'd like to make sure before we vote.
No, I can. Well, and it's or a delegate, but I am able to attend. It won't necessarily be right till 2 o'clock, but over lunch hour. And,
their bannock and stew's good.
Yeah. Any other discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Updated tagline. Can I get a motion? Councillor Rose.
Option 1, due to overwhelming results of the tagline survey conducted from January 16th, 2019 to February 6th, 2019, that council adopt Heart of Big Lakes as the town of High Prairie's tagline.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Councillor Danaka.
Just to give some background, I believe overwhelmingly we were actually quite surprised at how many people participated. We had 209 people that participated in the survey. As it states up there, 209, and Heart of Big Lakes was the overall winner with Catch the Spirit and then Light It Up. So, I mean, we asked for the public's opinion and they overwhelmingly gave that to us, with 92 choosing Heart of Big Lakes.
I think everybody likes it, and the people have spoken. I think it'd have to be a good reason not to go with it, and it's a good tag. Councillor Gilroy.
Knowing that you're considering going to the Heart of Big Lakes, how is that tagline going to work with new logos?
Well, and this
because
is
they tend to have to connect somehow.
This is my opinion, and logos and taglines can change, and they can change, fairly regularly. Logos tend to last a little bit longer, so I wouldn't necessarily think that the logo has to be tied to the tagline, and I wouldn't necessarily see the tagline being put on anything, permanent for a long period of time. That's my view of where the taglines, but putting it on some of our publications and brochures and that kind of stuff is where we'd use the tagline.
Okay, so roughly 6 months of consultation, special consultant, and what it's going to cost to change a few things over. And we're not planning on having it for a long time. Because to me, when you're looking at a tagline like this, if you're putting it on and you've invested that much time and effort, I see it needing to last quite some time.
Councillor Courtley.
This is just a tagline, though. This isn't the actual branding, correct? The actual branding will be a logo on its own, right? That's separate from the tagline. That had the consultant and all that time.
Potentially your logo
Was the logo.
and then your tagline will go underneath, right?
That's right, but I'm saying they're kind of two different things, really. Like this is just it's part of the branding. I understand that, but there's two different things going on, right? That was part of the tagline, but there's still the actual logo branding, like the coloring and all that stuff that is coming as well, correct?
That's right, Tim.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councillor Long.
We've got a sign just by the campsite as you drive in and it says gateway to Seal Lake or however it goes.
Yep.
It's really catchy, obviously. And so, yeah, they come and they go. they come and they go. My only concern with Heart of Big Lakes is that we always talk about we're high prairie. We're not high level, we're not high river, we're high prairie. Heart of Big Lakes doesn't really say who we are. It just sort of says geographically we're here, but if people don't know where Big Lakes County is, then they still don't know who we are or where we are. And so I don't know. I mean, I can live with it, but it doesn't jump out and go, wow, high prairie. It says, wow, Big Lakes. That's all.
Councillor Rose.
I'll just share some of the process that kind of got to that point, and there was a number of tag lines that came up for. Some of them came from our consultant, and some of them came just around the table from the committee. And I have to say that this wasn't even one that was. It got down to the committee's top 3, but it wasn't, in my opinion, based on our conversations, like nearing the top for the actual branding committee. It was like, okay, well, this is. There's some pieces of it that are really good. It did identify one of the challenges that we have is what are we? What is high prairie? What is significant? What is iconic? What makes us stand out? And it's really hard. And the things that people started to bring to the table were that warm fuzzy feeling, that community, the same thing that every community has, right? I like where I live because I like the people, and I like, there was nothing iconic. We didn't have our Big Beaver or our Easter egg or anything to sort of draw attention to. And what we actually do have is the area, and everybody brought that back around over and over again, is that we live in the town, but we live in the area, we live in the region. And the people that live in Big Meadow and Salt Prairie, when you ask them where they live, they say they live in High Prairie. They actually don't say they live in Big Lakes County, even though they live in Big Lakes County. So there is this confusion. I think as councillors, we put up these walls and these barriers, but I don't think the people put up the barriers. And that's what we saw a lot of. The other people in the committee like the idea of merging Big Lakes County and High Prairie, and recognizing that we really are the central piece. We are the heart of that whole area. And I actually love the idea that we could finally sort of market and draw attention to the fact that when we're talking about recruitment and retention with the RCMP and fit medical physicians and everybody that's a concern to the area, that one of our big draws is the lake. Right? And it's hard for High Prairie to say, oh yeah, come to High Prairie, we're the town beside the lake. Well, if we're High Prairie, heart of Big Lakes, we can actually use that much easier in our marketing. We talk about a video, potentially pictures on our website. It allows us to more easily draw that in. I like that idea. I know that around the table, again, like I was saying, that wasn't the most popular one with our group, but with the community it was. And I think that that's really interesting, and I think that we need to respect the fact that that's the one that was what the community bought into. I've heard lots of people comment on the fact that they liked, that they actually see council and sometimes the newspaper showing that division between town and county, but the actual residents don't feel like that. So I think they like a logo that doesn't give them that division, that allows them to sort of collaborate a little bit. Yep.
So 92 people from Big Lakes County.
Do you want to know what's really funny? So I talked to 92 people from Big Lakes County. I talked to I was at the open house there for whatever we were at there the other day. No, actually, the IDP. And there's a whole bunch of county people there and me from the town. Where were the rest of you guys? Anyway, and they told me that they voted, and they all voted, and their CAO made everybody vote and extended that out to others that from the county. But they liked a different tagline. I mean, they didn't mind this tagline, but that wasn't the one that they supported. They actually light it up. So they did. So like they were saying, I can't believe that you guys got that response when we actually, because they were going around lobbying and trying to support another tagline. So anyway, I don't even think it came from there. So anyway, there's my story. Did you have a... No. Oh, you did. It looks like you were pointing at him. That's like this sort of, okay. Okay, Councillor Stena. So,
I have to agree with Councillor Long. It's not drawing attention to, I'm not in favor of, well, I know the public has spoke, but it's still not drawing attention to High Prairie. Like it should be, and again, it's with
Councilor Gilroy?
Councillor Gilroy, that it should reflect and be tied into that brand. This tagline, I can't see it catching on. We still refer to the IGA. It's not Friesen Brothers, it's going to the IGA. I can't see it catching on.
Well, and I think it's what you do with the brand, in my opinion, and or with the tagline and how you use it and when you use it. And I think there's some strategies as a town and with administration to sit down and look at where are we going to use this tagline, how are we going to use it, where would it fit, and look at some of the documents that we produce. Where can we put this tagline and start using the tagline, and eventually I think it will catch on because people are talking about it now after doing the survey. They're curious what's happened with it, and once we pick it, we can start using it. Councillor Courtley, then Councillor Gilroy.
I myself, I don't mind the Heart of Big Lake, especially when you use it with the whole sentence, Town of High Prairie, the Heart of Big Lakes. It's really what it's saying what we are. We are the heart of the county, the whole hub, basically, right? And we're right beside the lake. It says everything, and you can dress it up. You could do a heart in a lake with a fish. No, but it does have a certain amount of ring to it, and it is true. It's what we are. So I like it.
Councillor Gilroy.
If you're looking at this from outside of our area, say when you go to Halifax, Quebec, all the places around here, how many of them know that how many have ever heard of Big Lakes? Where's the county? We know it's Big Lakes County. But Heart of Big Lakes, I could go to Ontario and find Big Lakes. Like, what makes it, once again, special? Are we going to pass this just because we spent all this money and committed all this time and we're afraid to say, well, you know what, this doesn't quite match what we want, and we're just trying to keep egg off our face? If you're going to put Heart of Big Lakes, you might as well just put Heart of Big Lakes County, because otherwise, Big Lakes can be anywhere. It really doesn't, unless you're from High Prairie or Canuso, which we know that this is Big Lakes County. If you're trying to get people outside of the area, Big Lakes is what? MD of Big Lakes? Big Lakes what? So it's just a question from a marketing perspective.
Councillor Courtley.
It could be anywhere, but Town High Prairie is the heart of it. And that's a catch line. We're heart of the Big Lakes. It makes people want to look.
It could be Big Lakes Heart Level.
Exactly. Then they're going to say, so where is that?
Yeah. So then they start looking up. They're going to want to look and see what do you mean by that, right? So I mean, I think it's good.
Councillor Rose.
So the heart thing actually came up in conversation a lot, and actually even when we were part of the Canada 150 Sesquicentennial Committee and we did that design for the mural, that was, again, how do we identify High Prairie? How do we put it on a train car? How do we make ourselves unique and significant? Again, it was a tough discussion, and the one identifying factor that kept on coming up was our heart. And that's why it would actually translate it over to this conversation, kind of interestingly, because there wasn't even the same group of people, and I got to see that that's what this group sort of said, that they felt that it was the attachment to community, the fact that the community goes the extra mile for people. Like there was a lot of reasons why they felt that our heart was our, at one point they were talking about, High Prairie, the heart of High Prairie. Like you saw some of those word combinations coming up when we're talking about the Sesquicentennial. So it does. The heart is actually part of the logo and part of this or not part of the logo, but part of the tagline. And definitely within those two groups, what people sort of saw Ultimately, though, when we talk to branding people, they say unless you can find that one iconic sort of denominator, then it is what Brian says. Then you have to market yourself. You have to market your tagline. You take your tagline, and actually, look at his shirt, Northern Lakes College. Even though they've done a really good job of trying to market that, and I'm pretty good at remembering it now, I still say ABC sometimes. Like, it's a long time ago that it was, that it was ABC. So it does take. There's no guarantee that just because you pick a tagline, that everybody all of a sudden is gonna buy into it. It's going to be us marketing that, but using it to start to what we can put on our website, to what we wanna and how we wanna market ourselves. And it, like I said, it is what already the community is bought into. If you looked at the list of the other communities, because that's the other thing, and I challenge, I don't know if any councillors, I know you guys have comments about what we shouldn't do. Does anybody have a comment on what they like? Because if you look at the list of other communities, there's a lot of communities that, if I give you their tagline, you would have no idea what community I'm talking about. We look at them all the time. The majority of them, you can identify their community with their tagline, but it may, if it's interesting, and that was actually, I like Light It Up, because I thought what that was going to do is make people look it up and say, where are they? What are they talking about? It's kind of interesting, like that they'd actually go a little bit further and try to figure out where we are. But most of the taglines don't say, like Vegreville, we are the home of the big egg. Like there's some that are specific, but the majority of the taglines are kind of generic, and they're kind of, they're formed in a committee sort of version of what makes sense they think for the community. But it is what we do with it afterwards.
Okay, we've had lots of discussion in and around. Is there anybody else that wants to speak up on it? Okay, we had a motion to basically approve the Heart of Big Lakes as the town's tagline. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried.
I want a county on the other end. I want a county on the end so you could actually realize it's Big Lakes County as opposed to Big Lakes.
Moving on to E.W. Pratt graduation ceremony. Get a motion. Councillor Rose.
The council approved Mayor Panasic to attend E.W. Pratt's commencement ceremony on Saturday, May 11th, 2019.
Okay, I would like to just make an amendment to that motion to say or delegate from the town council. Would you accept that?
I would accept that, but I also have a question about why, if they're not asking anyone to speak and they're just inviting somebody to attend, does it have to be an approval from council? Can any councillor attend the graduation ceremonies to watch and support them? Like, this is not a specific, or is it a specific, you sit here, you're the mayor sort of table? Because I know they're when I read it, it says they're not expecting a speech.
And last year, I can speak because it was, I'm going to say, a little bit of a shock last year, because that was the first year they did this, and you showed up and you were sort of ready to give a speech, because that's what's been happening every other year, and then they just put you up on the front, like on the stage, and you're the special guest, right? And so you're on stage and you just basically sit there. And I know, so it's, even our MLA was sitting there and was expecting to say something and just sat there. So it was kind of awkward last year. We sort of know what to expect this year if we're going to do it. And Councillor Gilroy.
See, I see no problem with the mayor or the deputy being the representative of the town, especially when we want to encourage them. But when it talks about any councillor being up there, I've actually represented the town at Northern Lakes College graduation, and the mayor doesn't speak at that one either. And yet, we're recognized as an important part of Northern Lakes College. I want our high school treated the same way. So I think it should be either the mayor or the deputy that go there, because it's important we show support from this town to, especially to the high school.
Okay, I think I'll be able to make it, but I'm not for sure at this point, but I'm going to try to work my agenda around. But if not, then we'll work for deputy mayor or one of the other ones that could attend. But I'm planning on being there at this point, if I can. Okay, so we have the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Item 8.4, Resource Communities of Canada Coalition. Councillor Courtley wants to make the motion.
I can make it.
Okay.
That council approve the town of High Prairie to support the Resource Communities of Canada Coalition.
Okay. Councillor Gilroy.
Just an interesting thought I heard in the community when it comes to this sort of thing. If we approve this, could we also get this coalition to sponsor what was in our newspaper about a boycott of Quebec products? Do you think we could actually use the resource one to further the Alberta's power to do something to improve our economy by boycotting Quebec? Could we actually do something like that?
I don't know. Something like that would have to go to AUMA and see what they would
I think
support.
we should make a motion right after this that we send a letter to AUMA, because the people in our community need that power right now.
Okay, any other comments on this one? Councillor Courtley?
Just that here's more proof of the unified movement we need to have towards the issues that are going on in our not just in our province but in our country, right? And here's where even the AUMA they represent us, and they recognize that there's an issue, and they're going ahead with the same idea that we were talking about in our last meeting with going to the FCM with one or two of us to represent, right? And here's exactly what we were just talking about right back at us. So I whatever we can do physically here to help support that is I'm all for it. So, but I don't know if banning anything from Quebec is really the thing to do. It's one of those things where they're still Canadians. We're Canadian. We should try to educate them and make them understand what they say and do, how it hurts what we do here in a province that can really benefit them as well with what we do. So it's more education than banning. But again, this is something that we should be behind 100%, and I'm all for it.
Brian, do you know, if we pass this motion, we would just be sending AUMA a letter saying that we passed this motion in support of these three issues, right? That's okay. Any other discussions on that one? Okay, seeing. Okay, Councillor Long.
So I've had lots of discussions with lots of people in town. By far, the strongest support is that we boycott as a province, as Saskatchewan and Alberta boycotting. I think that's way too late for that now. And I understand the position. I totally get it. But our neighbors are sending the whole baseball team down. So you're not going to ever get a total boycott of not going. It's just, we don't have that. discussion happening at all in the province. So it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we're not going, but we should be sending a letter at least supporting it, as little good that does. But
Well, I think the one thing in here is that they are going to actively engage in an education campaign, right? Like, and that's part of what they want to do. So that's a good thing, and that's where I mean, that was some of the intent. The Northern Alberta elected leaders met, and they did discuss the boycotting of it. And then there was, well, what is better, going to try to educate them or going to try and just boycott them as a protest? And there was lots of discussion in that group, and that group sort of felt, well, it was better to go and educate than to just boycott. That was their feelings. But it's, I mean, other people can do it. So I don't know if we would have got everyone on board from the province to boycott it, and it didn't come from AUMA either, right? If they would have made that recommendation, but I don't know, like Councillor Courtley says, we're all Canadians and we got to sort of work together in some ways, and hopefully we can get that message across.
my only concern is that our delegation is going to go and try to educate, are going to be educating in English. And if we don't have our documentation bilingual and our presentation bilingual, then it's just going to fall on deaf ears. And when you look at some of the communities in the last elections, like Outremont and other areas of Montreal, where you saw 15-16% increase, 15% of the vote went to Green Party in Quebec, in Montreal, like unheard of. And so when we have that kind of numbers that we're going to be facing, I hope that they go with their best comment ça va.
Yeah, I don't know what their plans are on how they're going to
Haven't you
educate
heard
and campaign. but-
Barry speak French?
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Haven't you heard Barry speak French?
He's one.
I'm just saying he doesn't speak it very well.
There you go. Yeah, we're in trouble then.
I was talking about boycotting products out after this. In other words, the economic, even though they're getting, what, 20 billion in transfer payments and we get peanuts, I'm talking about the fact that after this, make your education, but after this, continue to let them know that Albertans matter. I mean, I wasn't born in Alberta, okay? But I believe that Albertans should be even maybe spending more money on things made in Alberta as opposed to Quebec, and saying, you know what, if you don't want our oil, we will spend our money somewhere else. Send a message to the Prime Minister that there is rest of Canada here, and that it's important. So, I mean, I'm just talking about a little bit of pro-Alberta afterward, not just whether we send someone in French to Quebec City for FCM. I'm talking about right after that.
We don't even, we buy our stationery here from Staples. We don't even support our own local businesses. It's a hard sell.
Are you talking High Prairie businesses? Where,
Town High Prairie.
yeah, where we buy, we can buy paper 5 different places.
And you can just get a photocopy of it. This Town High Prairie.
We're
I have
okay,
a comment.
Councillor Rose?
I just want to say that I do support, I think that FCM's approach is a good one to go to, or AUMA's approach is a good one to go to FCM to educate the elected officials around Canada of basically the Alberta plight, right? The energy sector. I think that that's a great opportunity for them to bring that forward. I just want to state for the record that I think it's very disappointing that this council won't approve somebody to go to be part of the conference that we have a policy on, and that we won't have that opportunity to be part of this program that AUMA is putting forward.
All right, we've hammered on this one. We have a motion to send a letter of support for the resource communities. All those in favor? Carried. Finance, we're 9.1, Spring Rodeo Sponsorship. Got a motion here? Okay, I'll make the motion that the town of High Prairie, or the council approves sponsorship for the High Prairie Agriculture Society Amateur Spring Rodeo being held at the Agripex on April 27th and 28th, 2019 in the amount of, what do we got? I'll say $500 to be taken from the council's expense account 211770000, etc. Grants and organizations. Grants, organizations, and individuals. Discussion on that one? Go ahead, Councillor Stenhouse.
Okay, so in the option benefit disadvantage, as a sponsor, your business will receive tickets to the show. What are you going to do with the tickets?
500 to be a silver sponsor, signage around the arena.
Yeah, no tickets with the silver sponsorship.
Just signage around the arena.
Oh, there is,
Oh.
sorry, that's fine. Yeah, I missed that too. Yep, sorry.
In our background, it says with tickets to be given away on the radio. Like the background information.
Okay,
That's what we did before.
Okay, I have issues with that.
Oh, okay.
With the tickets on the radio. These tickets are actually bought by the taxpayers of High Prairie. When you open it up to the radio, it's open to anybody from Big Lakes County to the MD of Smoky River to anybody can win those tickets. I want it narrowed down, for giving it narrowed down to the people who actually bought the tickets, the taxpayers. Or we don't accept the tickets.
Easy enough to do.
Or when you're doing,
Go ahead, Councillor Long. Yeah.
When you're on the radio doing your mayor shtick on the radio, the next 5 callers that call in or 4 callers that call in that live in the town of High Prairie, boom, tickets are yours. That's as easy as that. They do it on the radio all the time.
But you're never sure if they do or not.
Or you could do a draw in the office for people to pay their bill that month or something. Then you know they live here.
You could. It also has to be a desire to want to go. Because we've given away tickets before for things that people just don't use.
And see, that's where I caught it on the radio too, where they've won tickets and then the next day they're trying to sell them. That's why I'm against these tickets on the radio.
Because speaking from doing the chamber event in the past, where the county, for example, has bought a table, and their policy is to not allow the councillors to use the tickets. They would just give away their tickets as sponsorship all the time. So having a seated event with a nameplate on it, we had an empty table that nobody attended, and meals for everybody because they gave away the tickets and nobody came to the event for that.
Councillor Corley?
Just do the silver sponsorship, say thank you very much, but no thank you to the tickets. Very simple. We appreciate, we like having the rodeo in the town of High Prairie. We just don't use that money, use the tickets for somebody else.
Or give it to the food bank, and they can give it to some of their families.
Councillor Gilroy?
Maybe something radical such as, if we get them, why don't we have a draw among the employees of the town who are interested in it as an extra benefit of their loyalty to the town. So in other words, if we have 51 people working here, I'm sure there's got to be at least 4 people that would like to say, you know what, we appreciate these town employees, they work hard, and so here's some, put your name in a hat, and then we give it to some employees as an extra bonus of, you know, something like that instead.
Councillor Stenhouse?
Okay, to save a lot of grief, let's just refuse the tickets.
Okay, well, okay.
Why don't we give them to the fire chief and he can distribute them to one of the members, 4 members of the fire department to go.
I don't know if I have any cowboys on the
Yeah. Okay, so we've got a motion just for $500. That makes us a silver sponsor. So we've still got this ticket issue that's floating around, and I'm hearing different suggestions. I don't know if we're in total agreement on that.
Tickets are not part of the motion, though.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's not part.
Motion and they can still decide what they do. That can be an administrative.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Okay, we have a motion for $500. All those in favor? Carried, and we'll let administration decide what they want to do with the 4 tickets.
Grants. Love to see that keep going.
Yeah.
Don't even have to deal with, like, we spent so much time dealing with this grants and tickets discussion.
Okay, item 10.1, strategic planning on page 29. Can I get a motion on this one? Councillor Danaka.
I make a motion that council approve a strategic planning meeting to be held on March 19th, 2019 at 7 p.m. in council chambers.
All right. Are people able to attend on that day? So I got 1 no. What's that? That's 2 no's. Well, I would think by the time you hammer out the details on those plans, which is the important thing, it does take time, right? Like it's.
I'll make
You have a pizza?
No.
Confirm it tonight, I'll put it in.
What's that?
Confirm it tonight, I'll put it in.
No, I'm good.
You're good?
You can.
You're able to, so we'd have 2 that aren't able to make it. Is there an alternative date that would work better in the near
Just do
future?
it. I think
That's
probably
about
long
it.
enough.
Okay. Well, there's a suggestion there to do it a little bit earlier and have food there. I don't know.
Food, finally, and we're not gonna be there.
Yeah.
No.
No. 6 o'clock with pizza, would that work? Okay.
Right.
But we are starting at 7?
Pizza.
No, we're saying at 6 with pizza?
But
Does that
without
work?
pizza, what?
Yeah.
Still 1 7, that'll be good. 6:20.
6:20 without.
How about 6:30 without food?
Okay, 6:30
half
without
hour to
food.
eat, and some of us can't be there until 6:30.
Okay. So we're going to start it at 6 o'clock with food. 6:30 we'll get with the meeting. Yeah. Okay. All of those in favor? Opposed?
Give her a doggy bag and a leftover
Yeah.
pizza.
Well, we're good.
Pizza.
Moving on to our CAO's action list and written report. Gonna get a motion? Councillor Long? We gotta get you on this sheet here so we know you're here.
Move DCAO's action report.
Perfect, thank you.
Hey, you will. That's what I do.
I just want to let council know that I was contacted by Municipal Affairs today, and they have tentatively booked September 11th council meeting to be here to do a review on myself and council administration. So it's not confirmed yet, but
September
they,
11th.
they've been doing a review going around, and they did Big Lakes County last year, which when Desiree was up, I got invited for lunch with them and that, and they said that Town of High Prairie would be on to a review. What they'll do is sit in on a council meeting, see how we conduct ourselves, and basically, so on your best behavior that day. So no, we'll be fine.
That's a Wednesday.
Well, I can't remember exactly.
In September.
September 11th.
Something is.
Do we, yeah.
It's the first meeting I think in September.
Okay. Always looking at ways to get better, obviously, but,
They can
yeah,
land at our
they're-
airport.
yeah, that's all right.
Come to the airport.
Okay, anything else you haven't been here, so I don't, yeah. Any questions for our CAO? Oh, there's Councillor Stenhouse.
Okay, I can't find it on the action list, but I do know that the pool wall has been fixed. Do we know if we stayed within the budget? Are we under budget with that wall? Did we go over budget?
No budget.
Yeah,
We
we
thought
had
we set aside extra money in
we
case
had
that-
set a price and a contingency fund. Did we stay within
I
that?
think we got a quote from the contractor prior to the construction.
Oh, that's true.
We did, and then we made another motion for extra money.
And we were trying to get it actually through our insurer.
Right, and did it go through?
As of today, I seen the email from Lori, and she was still in contact with the insurer. Nothing's been confirmed since. We have approved money, so if it is, then, if it goes to our insurance, then we'll check back.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know, like,
We haven't heard of it.
Okay, any other questions for CAO? Oh, we're gonna be nice being that you just got back on holidays, Brian.
What'd you bring us?
Nice tan though.
Yeah.
Brian, what'd you bring us?
Tan.
Yeah.
6 extra pounds.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, all those in favor of receiving his report for information? Carried. We have our treasurer's report. Can I get a motion on this one? Okay, Councillor Stenhouse.
The council received the February 2019 Treasurer's Report as presented for information.
All right. Anything you'd like to bring to our attention, Terry?
Yes, there is. As per council's request, I did the research into FCSS for whether that Ukrainian group would qualify. I worked with Michael Strebchuk, and we had to go back and forth a few times, and I finally sent him a copy of the full handbook from the FCSS as to what was required. He sent me back a letter today at 5:07, and I read it through, and it fits the criteria beautifully. And so we will be able to send him another check for another $1,000 from FCSS funding.
Yeah, awesome. Councillor Gilroy.
Actually, on that note, I think this council needs to be commended because I heard that the county only gave them $250.
150.
150? Though our council needs to be commended for supporting our cultural area this way.
Okay, any other questions for our treasurer? All right, seeing none. All those in favor? Carried. Moving on to item 14.1, strategic plan update. Councillor Gilroy.
The council received the strategic plan update for information.
All right. I'll just make a comment on this is that we've, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so we now have the 4 goals, and we'll have, I think the intent of the meeting on next Tuesday is to really flesh out what we can seriously accomplish and who's going to be doing what and what are some of the timelines, so that we actually have a document that we will use and can refer to and say, okay, how are we doing on these various initiatives? So we need to be, when we come to the meeting next Tuesday, be ready to say, this is what we should be doing or shouldn't be doing, because we've got, and this is my opinion, we've got too many things on here that we can't do it all in the next year. And some of them might just have to wait for another time. That's my thinking. But yeah, we've got a short list prioritized, and they're all good. And it makes it tough to say, well, we're not going to do that, but we know we can't do it all. So what are the priorities? What do we really want to get done? And then we can focus on those and not try to do too much and do nothing. Councillor Stenhouse.
I might have missed my spot. This might have been in the CAO's report, but since we passed it, I'm going to ask you, where are we with this survey on the budget?
Oh, no,
That's part of the citizen engagement.
You know what? That's a very good question. Because, and I can answer for Nancy a little bit, is that Nancy worked on it. We came up with the questions, we refined them. Nancy had them, tried to put them into SurveyMonkey, and we wanted to have the, 1 to 10 as an option. And you really can't do that by putting roads, and then the explanation, and then the 10 rated on 1 to 10. It just doesn't work there. And then I went in and tried to create a hyperlink where you could click on roads so people could say, okay, this is what we mean by roads, this is what we mean by sewer. You can't do that in SurveyMonkey. So the option, and we're just talking about it tonight, is to go back and say, write out roads and all of the things that sort of covers, and then when you hit a drop down menu, pick on a scale of 1 to 5, and we can change the wording on that. Instead of 1 to 5, so that it's not confusing, is put very valuable to not valuable at all, and then in between. So I think that's what we were talking about doing, but we need to get council to agree with that system, because that's not what we had talked about coming away, and we do need to have that discussion. So thank you for bringing that up. Councillor Gilroy.
On that same note, since we are going to be doing some surveys, just so that we don't miss the opportunity to do these things, is there a way of texting or emailing all the council when they're actually up, so that we can tell people in the community whatever survey we do as a regular policy? Because there are times that we miss, unless we're on the town website like almost every day, we've missed some of these things. So is there a way we can, as soon as that's up, we can be emailed, so we can then spread out and talk to our people and say, get on the website and fill out the survey so we can get it done and get a really good example, because we are building momentum out there, people who want to be part of this survey. And I don't want anyone to miss out on it.
I don't think that should be a problem, just having Nancy send out the surveys ready when it's out there and posted. Yeah.
And is there going to be hard copies also?
Terry?
May I ask if this is going to be really, really soon, because the budget does have to be passed with probably at your next council meeting?
Yeah, I think, well, we're going to have this hopefully out this week, right, and get it done. So, yeah, it'll be out this week.
Does that mean that next meeting, sorry, if you just said that the budget has to be passed by next meeting, does that mean that we are going to, maybe instead of strategic planning, we should have had a final budget meeting instead?
Well, that's a good point.
I think
yeah.
I'm sorry, I think the budget's more of a priority than strategic planning. If it has to be done by the next meeting, I think we need to spend next Tuesday nailing down the budget.
No, I agree.
It should definitely be done before the end of this month, because the bylaw for the tax levy bylaw has to be done the week after that, and then we can start doing all our calculations for putting the stuff into the system. in previous years, we usually pass the budget by the end of March, first week of April, and it's almost that time right now. I just got the assessment figures in yesterday, so there's no other reason anymore that I know of to hold off for council to go over the budget. So whenever council can do that, that'd be awesome.
For
I would like to have all council there, you know, and at the meeting next Tuesday, 2 councilors are going to be missing, so I'd like to see all 7 council members for budget discussion. So if you take another date.
Yeah, and I totally agree that this isn't, the budget isn't something that just gets plopped on the agenda because it's too big for an agenda item, so.
So I haven't seen the rec board budget, so
Yeah.
I'd like to actually see it before we pass any final budget.
No, we definitely need to go over that, so if we're at that point, we need to schedule in a meeting for that, for sure. So what's a good date for that?
Anything after Tuesday?
After Tuesday.
After today? No, like next Tuesday? Monday and Tuesday are out of the question for me, for any meetings.
What if we skip bylaw?
What's next?
Bylaw.
Next Thursday is, I'm not sure, the 14th. Does that work?
We won't have the information back from survey money by then.
No, we won't.
So why don't you,
14th is 2 days from now.
Oh, right, yeah, sorry, that's, yeah.
look further?
Well, we won't be able to get the results for the survey in time for this, I don't think, unless we just leave it open for a couple of days, like one.
Well, don't we need that though, sir?
Yeah, it is something that we've been.
Then
You
don't
have to
ask
do
the
a
question.
paper one.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, it's
Yeah,
taking
you
off
can't
on the
ask you to
survey.
say, yeah, but it's
Yeah.
Ignoring to talk about it in January, right?
If you're gonna ask the question, you better have the input involved.
That's right.
Well, we're asking questions on what do they value.
Paper survey may be the fastest right now.
Well, no. But, yeah, so I don't know if we're gonna be able to get the questions out and get an answer, because if we got this in 2 weeks, right, we've got to, we can get this out, but is 1 week enough to get any, is that enough for some good feedback? Might be, but how do we promote it that hard in 1 week, right?
One thing that's out there, the promoting part, the people are pretty quick to grab, if you're doing it electronically, people are pretty quick to grab onto electronic copy of something and do it. Sometimes if you leave it too long and they put it off, that's worse, right?
We can share it on Facebook every day.
That's right, so you can just
Yeah.
sort of, I think you could try for a shorter period of time once it's out.
With the meeting.
With the meeting,
Yeah,
just because
it's a Friday.
this will be council meeting here, right?
Yeah.
So,
Just to answer your question regarding the rec department budget, at the meeting that I was at, and I expressed concerns about facilities and how do we save money and come up with ideas of everything, anything from laying off people to closing facilities down for a little bit to, and I was informed in no uncertain terms from the county members, no. We're paying half. We expect those facilities to be open for our taxpayers. So I don't know how much pull the rec board actually has still. I thought they were an advisory, but apparently they hold the purse strings from the county and are saying if we look at facilities to close or if we look at anything involved with that rec department and change and cut and have to shut down facilities or whatever the case may be, they're opposed to it.
I don't know if that's what they said. I
what
would
they
argue.
said.
Well, no, they did not want to see the pool closed.
Right.
Is what they said.
Right.
But they weren't. They
Arena.
weren't against looking at other ways of saving money and doing things. So they want to see the pool stay open. Yeah.
My concern, though, was not that part. My concern is the fact that,
My concern is that they told me no.
well, my concern was the fact that it was in the mayor's report about some of these changes, and I haven't even seen the budget yet. So the community, in reading the mayor's report, learned about some of these changes, and it's out in the community, and I still haven't seen it. And I don't think, I don't want to vote on anything if everyone knows it but me. So I just want to see the report. I just want to see the budget.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking.
So let's get a date together where we've got, we're looking at trying to approve this on the, well, we could approve it at a special meeting on another day before the end of the month. If we wanted to give ourselves some more time, but we need to start,
28.
What does our treasurer need, though?
28th is, well, does not work well. That's that municipal leaders conference in Edmonton. So I would pay to be there, should go there, but I could cancel that out. Budget is more expensive or more important. We've got the leaders conference is 27th, 28th. That's the
April 2nd.
I'm gone the whole first week of April.
But she said it needs to be approved by the 26th.
It should be, so it can be a motion at the council meeting.
So we have to,
Before the 26th.
before the 26th of March. In other words, and within the next 2 weeks we have to meet. That's what I'm saying. Scrap the.
But we can't have everybody at strategic planning, and we need everybody there for the budget. So we're looking for another date, right?
I don't think you're gonna get it, though. Because, I mean, you don't have Terry for 1 week, you're going to the conference, I'm away, Judy obviously has something going, like.
When are you back? When are you?
What are the dates you're away?
When are you back?
I'm gone for 2 weeks.
Oh, as of.
I can call in though. So, I mean,
Yeah.
if it's just a meeting, like we're having a budget meeting, I can, if you guys want everybody present, I can be on speaker.
So that week of.
The last weeks of March, here, like I'm leaving on the 18th.
Okay. So I'm just trying to, we got, the 19th, we're gonna do strategic planning. The 20th,
Why don't you pick the strategic planning one, because everybody's already confirmed that one.
well,
Oh,
we
yeah, but-
wouldn't have,
Okay, I could come late though. Well, look at there, she's making a
We
comment.
could say pizza for you.
so you could come in at
We can put pizza in the phone.
6:30-ish? No? What? Oh, at 8?
But it is the final budget anyway, so there should be some discussion.
Yeah. What about the no, that doesn't work either. 22nd, that's a Friday. I don't know,
20.
Friday or Saturday? Do we want to meet on not on a Saturday? Okay.
Well, it's
We're
not
having
that-
coffee.
Oh, it's not
What
that
happened to
important.
our coffee? Why don't you just do a little bit later on the accommodation, just back to meeting up on the Tuesday? You said you'd come at 8?
Well, 8's getting pretty late to start discussions, right? Like that's what worries me is that's like,
No, but you guys could start, but I would be great. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
okay, well, we could do that. Does that work for everyone then? We'll have to, you'll be phoning in, you'll be coming in late, and we can go over.
So you're going with the 19th?
What day have you figured it out?
Well, I think we're looking at the 19th instead of doing the strategic planning. It would be budget.
Okay, so we can make a motion to cancel the first motion of strategic planning, make a new motion to put it for budget.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are, we're into a motion right now that's talking about our strategic plan. So we'll have to finish that one, and then we can make another commitment. Yes, but we still have to vote on it. Yeah, I think it should still be at 6:30 and get going. 6:30 for the meeting, 6 o'clock for pizza.
And then Judy can't come till it's an hour and a half, so you.
Yeah.
Unless you want to bump it to 7.
No.
Okay, so let's go to the strategic planning meeting, or the strategic plan. We had a motion to receive for information. All those in favor? Carried.
I'll make the motion.
Councillor Gilroy.
I make a motion that council change, actually, I guess, do we make it so that we then change the motion, the previous motion? Okay, so we rescind the, oh, okay, so, okay, then, well, no, he said that,
Yeah. But if you
It was your
rescind
motion.
your motion, then we'd make a new motion.
yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to do it the right way. We know what we want to do.
Okay, so if Donna does that one, I'll do the other one.
Are you all right with that, Donna, to rescind your motion that you made to have a strategic planning meeting on March 19th?
I'll rescind that then.
Okay, and we don't need it. Okay, all those in favor? No. Oh, you don't vote.
I'm not 100% sure, but I don't know if you can rescind a motion that's already been voted on. I think you can only rescind it before it's voted on.
So what's the proper protocol to change that?
No, she can rescind her motion.
Yeah.
Even after it's voted on?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't 100%
can
sure on
bring it
that.
We've done it before.
Okay, so we've rescinded that motion,
We've done it before.
and
So-
Councillor Gilroy,
I make a motion that that council have a special meeting on March 19th to discuss the final budget. How's that?
okay, and we know the times, so that's good enough. All those in favor? Carried. And at that meeting, we'll look at dates for our strategic planning stuff again. We'll try and find another one, another date in there.
Well, we could have done strategic planning from 6:30 to 8, and then did the budget.
I'm just worried that starting a budget that late at 8 o'clock might not give us enough time. Yeah.
The maximum time.
Yeah, budget's the priority, absolutely. Yeah.
Start at Saturday at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
That's,
and if we'll see how we make out on Tuesday, and if we need more, we can look at a Saturday and, yeah,
It's one time a year that it needs to be done.
yeah.
Saturdays are better, like, you're fresh, you get the whole day to do it, and banter it out.
All right. We're moving on to our verbal and written reports. Councillor Daneka.
I don't have a report, but just a reminder for people if they're interested, the museum is having their annual AGM this Thursday at the museum at 6:30. If anybody's interested, we're always looking for new members. I move my verbal report for information.
Go ahead.
I just wondered if any councillors had noticed that Public Works had taken out some trees and trimmed some lower branches on that big spruce tree in front of the museum. They were talking about visibility for the museum building itself. So we kind of cut a couple of dead trees out and trimmed some back, so, and it does show a lot better, so, yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Councillor Daneka? Sorry, did you move your report? You did? Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Councillor Gilroy?
Just a verbal report. I was going to have more, but they canceled our community health and wellness clinic. One of the highlights they did give us is that they've been working on cutting down the number of no-shows, and they've actually got it down to 3.3, which is, at one point they were 20% no-shows, now it's down to 3.3. And they are hiring a few extra staff there as well. They're still looking for a community member to be involved with that. And there's a lot of interesting things. There even there's going to be a couple of new committees struck up on that to go with the announcements that the provincial government gave with the diabetes and things like that. So there are a couple new committees that they're working on to improve service over there. Secondly, watershed. Just reminded that the watershed is doing a few more things, and they do have copies that they will be sending out, little report cards as they call it, which will be available for you. I will get some from Megan Payne. And finally, I would say that even though he wasn't there in the official capacity, I think the mayor did a really good job today at Prairie River Junior High, encouraging the young people and showing all the different things they can do in this community. And I want to give kudos to 3 admin people who at the last moment were able to give me enough that I was not embarrassed. So thank you, Terry, Nancy, and Marion for coming through at the last moment to enable me to have a represent the town well at the junior high. So I move my verbal report for information.
Any questions for him? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Councillor Long?
Nothing for this meeting. We did attend the airport meeting today, and that'll be my next month's or next meeting's report.
Okay.
Report for information or non-verbal?
No report here,
No
basically.
report,
Yeah.
But we can question that.
We'll go, and then to me, the only real activity was the radio spot. That was, and they're now recording that and playing it later in the day. So,
For people with sleeping disorders?
so, yeah, I often get some feedback on it. Some people are listening, so that's good. We'll see how it goes. So that was really the only thing. So I move my report for information. All in favor? Councillor Corley.
As Councillor Long said, we were at a airport meeting today at 4 o'clock this afternoon. So just a couple highlights from that. I'm just going to, one big positive was they finalized and gone ahead and awarded the expansion of the runway. It's finalized and awarded, and it's all the marbles. So there is runway extension of 400 feet, complete new overlay, including the 400 feet and the existing runway will be all new and upgraded and flat, not the big heaves, and as well as all the lighting. The old lighting will be all the upgraded LED, I guess LED, and tied in with the radios and the stuff, so they can turn them on and off with the planes. Is what we were working on before, anyway. So that's all been awarded.
And the widening of the intersection road.
That's right. Yeah. It's going to be a busy summer there. They're doing that. Plus, the company that has bought a lot there, I think their building is sitting at. Yeah, I shouldn't even say that. Anyways, they're going to be building a new hangar that they were going to build last year is going to be built this year, apparently. And so there'll be lots of action going on there. One thing is they are going to plan this year again a fly-in brunch, probably midsummer, so that more people can attend it. And it'll be nicer weather, so that'll be soon to come on a date on that. So just so you know, the final tally for that was $2.9 million. It'll be a little bit more than we figured, I think, but the grant was for 700. They got a grant for 700 and some thousand, I think it was. So, hey, 750-ish. So that's why they went ahead with everything. So because of the size of the grant, and so it'll look great. The size of plane that'll be able to land there is questionable. I think it's fairly large. Not quite a 747, but it'd be pretty close. So. Maybe. Not an Airbus 310, but an Airbus 10. So we'll see. Or yeah. Anyways, it's pretty exciting. That'll be a huge improvement for our area community. So that's all I have. I move my verbal report for information.
No other questions? All those in favor? Councillor Rose?
One thing I'll mention on the report that I think that we should draw attention to, and maybe we can talk about it when we talk about our strategic plan, is the section that I wrote upon about the economic development course that I took for elected officials. There was a lot that came out of there lending itself towards, if you don't have an economic development officer, you should have an economic development committee, and minimally you need an economic development plan. And we should maybe really consider that
There's some good step-by-step instructions in a couple manuals that I grabbed, and I can pass them along to Nancy so we can have them for resources here as to how to make sure that we put that plan in place. I've had a number of community members over time ask about what our economic development strategy is, or how we're trying to push economic development, and of course, I mean, we're all trying. Just recently, actually, at a health meeting I was at last night, I had a community member come over and was quite frustrated because they're trying, they say, to acquire land and do some development here locally, and they've been met with 3 different town employees with 3 different answers, and some people are giving them information, some people are saying they can't have information, they feel like we should have a development package. Anyway, that's just a one-off sort of struggle, but we're not alone with those struggles. It sounds like when I was at the elected officials course, there's a lot of small communities that are exactly in our spot where they don't have an economic development officer, nor do they have much in place. So the course gave us a bit of instruction on what was important and how to link it to your strategic plan. So they say take the strategic plan, use that as your starting document, and build an economic development plan after your strategic plan. So.
Okay, any questions for Councillor Danaka?
I just have questions on your little paragraph on the rec board. How many staff are resigned, or do you know?
I don't know, was it 2 or 3? It was lifeguards.
Wasn't that many?
Maybe 2.
Why was that?
Right? Were you there? Remember when Lori had said that they got two resignations, for lifeguards, based on the fact that they thought they should qualify, and we did too, because we thought that the transition was supposed to be seamless. The employees were supposed to come in over with the same seniority. They were supposed to qualify just like town employees, that they would now be up for their mandatory evaluations and potentially step increases. And when they were told that no, that they had to now wait a year because they were going to be before they would get their anniversary date, they were frustrated. I mean, I think they were frustrated at the fact that we can only afford to pay relatively low wages anyway, and that was sort of the tipping point that made them give their resignations.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of receiving for information? Carried. Councillor Stenhouse.
I have no report.
Okay. So if there's no report, meeting adjourned.